Alright, let's get something straight right now. You want to build solid relationships. The kind that don't break, the kind that don't falter. Whether we're talking about personal relationships, business partnerships, or friendships, there's one thing you've got to understand right away. And it might surprise you. It's not about always being the strongest, the smartest, the most confident. No, the real key to building relationships that stand the test of time is vulnerability. Now, I know what you're thinking. Vulnerability? That sounds like weakness, right? You've been conditioned to believe that showing any kind of emotion, opening up, exposing yourself to risk, that's a losing move. But let me tell you something right now. That's a rookie mindset. Winners, the real top-tier players, they know that vulnerability is like a high-risk, high-reward investment. You don't get to build anything real, anything substantial, without taking risks. Vulnerability is the leverage that allows you to get closer to people, to create deep, unshakable bonds. It's like putting in a massive investment and getting returns that go far beyond what you ever imagined. See, vulnerability isn't about being weak. It's about being real. It's about dropping the facade and letting people see who you are, flaws and all. When you're real, when you're authentic, people connect with you. They trust you. And trust, let me tell you, is the ultimate currency in relationships. You don't build wealth in business without trust, and you sure as hell don't build lasting relationships without it either. Trust is what holds everything together, and the fastest way to build trust is through vulnerability. Imagine for a second that you're sitting across the table from someone you're trying to close a deal with. Now, you can sit there, stiff as a board, rattling off numbers and stats, showing them how tough and put together you are. But what happens when you open up? When you share something personal, something real? When you make yourself human? That's when the other person starts to let their guard down. That's when they see you as more than just a slick talker. They see you as someone they can relate to, someone they can trust. That's when the real magic happens. The same principle applies to your relationships, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or a colleague. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. And vulnerability is the bridge to that authenticity. It's like in the stock market. You don't make the big gains by playing it safe. You make them by taking calculated risks, by being willing to put yourself out there, knowing that the return on investment can be massive. But here's the catch. Vulnerability requires courage. It's easy to put up walls, to pretend like nothing phases you, like you've got it all under control. But walls keep people out. They create distance. You want to build solid relationships? You've got to tear those walls down. You've got to be willing to expose yourself, to admit when you're scared, when you don't have all the answers. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's the kind of strength that makes people trust you, that makes them want to invest in you, emotionally and otherwise. Think of vulnerability as a strategic play. Just like in the financial world, the best strategies aren't the ones where you play everything safe, where you hold back. No, the best strategies are the ones where you take bold, calculated risks. You show your hand, you make a move, and then you watch as things start to shift in your favor. That's what happens when you open up to someone. You're showing them that you trust them enough to be real, to be genuine, and that gives them the permission to do the same. And let's not get it twisted. Vulnerability isn't about oversharing or spilling your guts every chance you get. It's about being selective and intentional. Just like a savvy investor doesn't throw money at every opportunity that comes their way, you don't just open up to anyone and everyone. You pick your moments, you choose your people carefully, and when you do, you go all in. That's how you build solid relationships. You invest with intention, you give people your trust, and in return, they give you theirs. Now let me break this down in terms that'll hit home. Think of a relationship, any relationship, like a stock portfolio. If you never take any risks, if you never invest any real capital, you're going to get low returns. You'll have shallow connections, surface-level relationships. But when you start to invest more, when you start to show your vulnerabilities, your fears, your dreams, that's when the real growth happens. That's when the relationship starts to compound. And just like compound interest in the financial world, it starts small, but but over time, it builds into something massive, something unbreakable. But remember, vulnerability is a two-way street. You can't expect to build a solid relationship if you're the only one opening up. You've got to create an environment where the other person feels safe to be vulnerable too. It's like negotiating a deal. You've got to make the other side feel like they're in a safe space, like they can trust you. When both sides are vulnerable, that's when you create a partnership that's built to last. So how do you start? How do you begin to leverage vulnerability to build stronger, more resilient relationships? First, you've got to be honest with yourself. You can't be vulnerable with others if you're not willing to face your own insecurities, your own fears. You've got to take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I afraid of showing people? Once you know that, once you confront those fears, you can start to use them to your advantage. Because here's the thing, when you open up about your struggles, when you admit that you don't have it all figured out, it creates a connection. It humanizes you. People want to do business with people they trust. People want to be in relationships with people they feel connected to. And vulnerability is the fastest way to build that connection. Let me tell you something. Vulnerability in relationships is like a high-return investment. It's risky, sure. There's always the chance you could get hurt. But the upside? The upside is that you build relationships that are so strong, so solid, they can withstand anything. You're not just building a foundation, you're building a fortress of trust, loyalty, and understanding. And that, my friend, is priceless. So to wrap this up, here's the bottom line. Vulnerability is your secret weapon. It's the tool that's going to take your relationships from surface level to rock solid. It's what's going to make people trust you, connect with you, and stay loyal to you. Don't shy away from it. Don't hide behind walls. Tear them down, take the risk, and watch as your relationships grow stronger, deeper, and more valuable than you ever thought possible. You've got this. Now go out there, be real, be vulnerable, and build something unbreakable.